Hello and welcome to video lesson number 2 for Work Experience 12. Today we're going to be talking about resumes and cover letters. So if you want to go in the guidebook to resume and cover letter section. Just a couple reminders before we get started. I do have applications in for the Junior Initial Attack Forest Firefighting Program. So if you're interested, come and see me for an application. Those are due back October 21st. As well, October 13th, permission forms package for Work Experience was due, and as well your information for Work Experience 12 program. So for this lesson, I'm going to start actually with a PowerPoint and share my screen, and then I may flash up another sheet as well to show you about resumes, and then we'll go into the guidebook. So just bear with me, I'm still relatively new at this. All right, writing an effective resume. Okay, so we're gonna look at what should be in a resume, characteristics for a successful resume, functional or chronological, and scannable resume. As well, we're gonna go into the basics of a cover letter and just cover it off in this first PowerPoint. It'll be less slipping back and forth for me. All right, so what are some things that you would like and should have in your resume? First of all, you want to identify yourself, so the pertinent information, your name, your full address, and the best way to reach you, home phone number and cell phone number, and email if applicable. And you want to make sure that you use a professional email address. You want to have your education. You want to have any work experience that you have or volunteer experience, activities that you're involved in, possible skills that you have, computer skills, that kind of thing, any groups that you're a member of, and some optional sections are having an objective. That might be something if your resume seems to get short to you, you could have an objective at the top. Special skills and abilities, and we do also ask for your resume that you're going to be doing to have references. So characteristics of a successful resume, what are they? You want to focus on your skills. You want to use strong action words to define your responsibilities for your job-related experience. So for instance, if you're putting down babysitting as one of your work experiences or one of your experiences, is it just babysitting, or do you want to make that sound as effective and as powerful as possible? So of course you always want to be honest, but what words can you use to describe that experience that make it sound really amazing? So perhaps you were supervising children, planning meals, planning activities. So you want to make what you did sound as effective as possible through your word choice. You want to make sure that your resume is easy to read, easy to understand. It's visually powerful, free of gimmicks, so you don't want to have scent on your resume, or you don't want to use a really loud, colorful paper, that type of thing. And we usually say 1 to 2 pages at the most. Okay, you want to make sure that your language and grammar is correct. You want to make sure that your spelling has been checked, that it's been edited, and it's a nice formal and professional looking resume. Okay, so just, you want to make sure that you don't have any typos or grammar slips, and there is a couple of examples here. You always want to make sure in a resume that you are 100% truthful. This is something that if you were not truthful, it could come back to haunt you. It is grounds for dismissal in the real world if you said something that was not the truth on your resume. Of course, you don't have any inappropriate personal information. You really don't need something like a photograph in your resume. And of course, it should be word processed. And normally you want to present your information in chronological order, which we'll talk about. So chronological order basically starts with your most recent experience first, and then goes backwards in time. A functional resume doesn't go in chronological order. It's more based on your skills and experiences and your competencies. So this may be used if you were out of the job force for a certain period of time. Maybe you lost your job, and in that time you were looking for a job, and you don't want that to be seen necessarily in your resume. So you may focus on a functional resume, which doesn't have the chronological order. Okay, it's not as popular and not as common, but there is certain times that you might want to use it. So for the purposes of our resume, we're going to be using the chronological resume. So that means starting with your most recent experience first in terms of work experience or volunteer experience, and then going backwards in time. Okay, you do want to make sure that your resume is easily scannable. Just some things to watch for there. Less is more, keep your design simple, and try to avoid using abbreviations. The only time actually that you can or should use an abbreviation in a resume or cover letter is with provinces, so British Columbia, BC, Ontario, ON. Other than that, you really shouldn't be using abbreviations. You should be putting in full words. Okay, basic checklist. You want to check that you have no spelling or grammar errors. It's neat, clean. Is it professional looking? Is it 1 to 2 pages? Does everything line up at the side, at your left margin? And make sure that you have a good balance of white space, but there's not too much white space. And make sure that the layout is easy to read and it's conducive for somebody reading it. Important titles, headings should be emphasized, so you can bold, italic, underline. I personally like bolding the best. I don't really like underlining. And you want to make sure information is logically recorded. And again, you want to use those action verbs that we talked about for your accomplishments. Bullet points are great. They're easy to read. Quantify your results when you can. So that means, putting a number into what you're talking about. So if you talked about having effective word processing or typing skills, maybe you would actually give your word processing per minute what you're actually at. All right, next we are going to go into a cover letter because we have that on the screen and it's easier just to do that now rather than going back and forth. Okay, so just for a second, let's talk about what is a cover letter. So a cover letter basically is an introduction to your resume. It is what is going to come first. It's what the employer is going to see first. So you want to make sure that with your cover letter that you grab the employer's attention. And through your cover letter, you convince them that they want and need to read on into your resume. Why do you want to do a cover letter? Well, first off, it would perhaps set you apart. So if there was 10 other people applying for the job and you were the only one that did the cover letter, it would show that you're willing to go that extra mile for the job and that you really want the job. As well, a cover letter can convey things that a resume may not, can give a little more information and a little more detail. So let's talk about the rules of doing a cover letter. So you want to give enough information to interest the reader, but you don't want to overwhelm them. I know I've looked at cover letters before that have been like 6, 7, 8 paragraphs long, go into 2 pages. You really want to make it short, concise, and keep it to a page. And you want to make it look readable and pleasing to the eye. Research the company. You want to make sure that you can address the letter to a specific person. So you want to make sure that you have an address for the company that you are applying to. And you can usually research those addresses online and try and find out who the hiring manager or the human resource manager is. And sometimes it might be as easy as making a quick phone call and finding that information. And then you can address your cover letter to that person and you'll be more assured that it will get to them. As well, if you were referred by a person, you could mention that person. That's always nice to do in your first paragraph. Okay, you want to include your address, your city. Obviously in Canada, it's your province and your postal code, not your zip code, and your telephone number, the best way to reach you, and as well, your cell phone number and email. The date, then you want the name, title, company, address, and where you're applying to, including the province and their postal code. So as much information as possible. Again, it shows that you are willing to go that extra mile and find out that information and having that full information for the company that you are applying to. Then you're going to have a greeting like, Dear Mr. Smith, colon, Dear Mrs. Ant, colon. You may have it to, you want to have it to a specific person. You want to follow that with a colon. Paragraph 1, you're going to be explaining exactly what is it the job that you want to acquire. I'm interested in acquiring the position as cashier at McDonald's or whatever it is. So be very specific on the position that you want so that they know. You might want to mention how you know about the organization. Paragraph 2, this is where you're going to sell the experience and the skills that you have. So what is the experience and the skills that you have that relate to the job that they would be looking for? So this could be experience, this could be skills, this could be personal characteristics. Paragraph 3, state your competence and your ability to be the right choice for the person for this job. And then you want to give your contact information. We call this demonstrating some action that you're looking forward to connecting with them for an interview and providing your contact information and the best time to contact you. You can have a paragraph 4, that's not as common, expressing your appreciation, but at the end you definitely want to have what we call a complimentary closing, something like sincerely, comma, then leave a couple of blank spaces, and then have your typed name. And when you print off your cover letter, the last thing you want to do is sign your cover letter. And that would be in between your closing, like sincerely, and those blank spaces that you have there, and your type name. You would sign in between there with black or blue ink. All right, so we're going to look at something else now. So just bear with me and give me a second. We're going to stop sharing, and here I am again. So yeah, a couple more things that you want to think about. We're going to go back to resumes now. I just wanted to cover cover letters because I have that PowerPoint up and it's difficult to flip back and forth sometimes between things. So when you're doing a resume, you want to analyze the job description. And let's say, for instance, that you're applying for a job as lifeguard for the city of Prince George. And usually in the job description, they will mention certain characteristics, qualities, experience that you're looking for. And if you have those characteristics and skills, you want to talk about that in your resume, give them those skills in your resume and in your cover letter. So you want to make it specific to what they are looking for. Okay, so in your booklet, I mentioned there is the resume and cover letter page. It just gives you some general information, so you can read through that. I'm going to skip over that, although I will mention that for your resume, we do want 3 references, please. And there is a bit of debate on whether or not references should be included these days in resumes, but I highly recommend doing your references. First of all, it makes you think about it and put your references together, and I think that it would be much nicer for an employer to have your references up front. They're busy people, and it's nice to just have them there, and they don't have to call you and get those later on. So we would like you to put 3 references in your resume and the contact information for those references. All right, next I am going to flip to a sample resume, which is in your booklet. Okay, resume example. So this is highlighting the main parts of a resume, starting with your name and your contact information at the top. This one has an objective. You don't necessarily have to have one. Some important things to think about here are the font that you choose. You want to make sure that it's professional. We recommend Arial, Times New Roman, font size 12 point at least, just to make sure it's big enough. You don't want it to be too small or too large, but around 12 point is a good size. You want to make sure that all of your margins line up on the left there. You want to make sure that you have highlighted your name and your side headings. So then we have the education, employment. So that could be your work experience, volunteer experience as well. And you want to make sure that when you're listing your work experience or your volunteer experience, that you discuss your duties and job responsibilities. And again, here you want to try to use your action verbs to talk about what you were doing. We've got certificates and skills as well. And we've got interests in this resume. And then at the end, you see that we have 3 references. You want to make sure that you mention the career of your reference or how you know them, and then the contact information. All right, so that is our sample resume. Okay, so next we're going to flip to another screen for the assignment. So I'll go back to screen share. Okay, so what are you going to do? So first of all, you are going to complete your resume if you don't have one, or update your resume. And we are suggesting that you use my blueprint. You don't need to. You could also word process it using Word or many of the templates or resume builders that are online. So this is just the resume checklist that you're going to go over before you hand in your resume. And I will let you go over that yourself. And at the end, you can think about an area of strength and an area of improvement. And it would be a great idea to get this peer checked by someone else. It's always a good idea to get your resume edited for any typos. And at the bottom there, you can see how the resume is going to be assessed based on a 4-point learning scale. All right, so your task is to complete or update your resume using my blueprint or whatever you want, basically your choice. But what I'm going to do now is spend a minute and just go through my blueprint, how you log into it, and that type of thing. You're going to be using this for your resume and cover letter and as well for some other activities in the guidebook. So here is the address here. You can just do a quick Google search for my blueprint, or you can go in this way. Open up the link. All right. So if you've been in my blueprint before and you used it before, you can just go to login and put in your previous login information. You are going to need the email that you previously used and your password. And that would enable you to get in and get into previous resumes that you've done before and the career assessments and that kind of thing. So if you have done it before, you do want to go into your previous account. If you forget your email that you used before or your password, you can always let me know and I can reset you. So just let me know and I can do that. Let me know through an email or something like that. If you've never used my blueprint before, then you are going to sign up for my blueprint. And it's fairly simple to do. The one thing that you will need is an activation code. And the activation code to set up an account is Dutchess Park. And that's all lowercase and no spaces. So DUCHESSPARK, all lowercase and no spaces, and then you can set up your account. So I'm going to quickly go in and show people how to access and use the resume builder. It's pretty awesome, I think, actually, because it guides you through with a resume builder. Okay, oops, if that happens to you and you really can't remember what your information was, just let me know and I can reset you. In, there we go. Okay. Give it a second and you're going to go over to your dashboard. You will be in student view. Sorry, I'm in the wrong view right now. And you're going to go into work, resumes. And you're going to go into create a resume if you want to do a new resume, or you could also go into one of your previous resumes and just update it with your current information, more relevant information that you may have had over the summer. If you've got some new things that you did, some new experiences, some new volunteer experience or work experience. Create resume. You're going to put a name in for it, whatever you want to call it, resume number 1 with your name. I've got lots of different ones that I've done. Save it, and then basically the resume builder is going to guide you through the different sections of your resume. So it's pretty awesome. And then you can preview your resume and you're able to print it off. So if you need any help with that, you can always let me know, but it's got all the different sections of your resume in there. So that should be great. All right, so your task is to create a resume or update your resume. All right, next we're going to talk more in detail about a cover letter. I've already introduced you to the cover letter with the PowerPoint. So we're going to take a look at a sample cover letter. So here is the sample cover letter. So you can see at the top that you start with your personal address. Then there is today's date. Then you have the address of the person that you are applying to, the employer, the business, name of the recipient. So you want to give a person's name, Mrs. Scott, whatever that is, the person's position, human resource manager, company name, and then the full address of the company. Then you want to have your introduction or your greeting, dear Mrs. Smith, with a colon. Then you want to start with your first paragraph, explain what specific job you're applying for, explain if somebody referred you to the job, and you might want to talk about how you are familiar with the business or organization. Middle paragraph, this is where you are going to talk about the skills and characteristics and experience you have that make you the ideal candidate for the job. And in the last paragraph, state that your resume cover letter is enclosed for more information, offer to provide additional information, and quite often we'll say demonstrate some type of action here, so request an interview. And you finally want to end with your complimentary closing, like sincerely, comma, leave a couple blank lines, and then type your full name. When you print it off, you want to sign it with black or blue ink. Okay, so we'll go into the cover letter assignment next. So what are you going to do for the cover letter? Okay, so your instructions are to word process a targeted cover letter for a job that interests you. Using my blueprint, or if you just want to do it in Word, you can do that as well. There's lots of templates in there, you can just type it up. So when we say that we want you to write a targeted cover letter, that means that we want you to do it for a specific position. So it makes it a lot easier to do a cover letter and more meaningful if you actually do it for a job that exists. Now, I'm not saying go out and apply for a job, but I'm just saying find a possible job and then tailor your cover letter to that specific job. So you could possibly use something like Indeed.ca to see what types of part-time jobs are available. And again, I'm not saying you need to apply for a job at all, just we're going to use this for the cover letter itself. So there is as well the cover letter checklist, so things that you want to make sure of as a checklist for your cover letter. And again, you want to make sure that you do a self-check on this, and then we recommend as well getting a peer or someone else to check it as well, especially for grammar, possible typos, okay? And then at the bottom there, you can see how I'm going to assess the cover letter. All right, so you are going to, again, type up your cover letter, word process your cover letter. And I'm going to go into my blueprint and just quickly show you how to do that. Log in again. Bear with me for a second here. Hopefully I get in quicker this time. We are going to go into the cover letter builder. Okay, so we're going to go into work, cover letters, and then we'll be in the cover letter builder. You're going to see that I've kind of fiddled around here a lot, but what you're going to do is go into add cover letter and create a cover letter for a targeted job that you don't necessarily have to apply for. If you have any questions figuring out what a targeted cover letter is as well, you can come see me and talk about that. So you're going to go add cover letter, put in a name for your cover letter. You want to call it. Sometimes, I mean, you do want to make cover letters specific to the job that you are applying for, so you may have various cover letters in here. Cover letter for lifeguarding job, cover letter for restaurant position. Anyways, you'll save your title, and then it is, as you see, a cover letter builder. So you can go in and put in your personal information, put in the employer information that you got for the practice job that you're going to be doing this for. And then you're going to put in your information for paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. And you can also take a look in the booklet at the cover letter outline that is in there. There's also an example cover letter in your guidebook, so do refer to both of those in your booklet for help, the cover letter outline and the example cover letter. But my blueprint as well guides you through what you need to put in your cover letter. Okay, and so once you're done, you can preview it, and then usually you need to export it into Word to print it. So I'm going to ask that you do print off your cover letter. Get out of here for a second, so I'll stop sharing. Okay, yes, so your job is to update your resume and to do a cover letter for a targeted job. Not that you need to apply for that at all, just for a sample for this activity. And when you hand in your guidebook, you're going to hand in both your cover letter and your resume. So this is it for resume and cover lesson, video lesson number 2. Thank you for listening.